In March of 2016, we had the first Undoing Racism workshop here on the Eastern Shore. And that's a 2.5-day workshop that's given by the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond. So this is a group, their organization is 40 years old. They're probably the most venerated trainers in anti-racism in the United States. And they do hundreds of workshops a year. And they train, really important, the staff of huge things like the Los Angeles Police Department and libraries and public education systems and social service systems. So they really know what they're doing. The workshop's called Undoing Racism. And they say that if racism has been done, it can be undone. And it's usually 40 people or so, usually half people of color, half white. It's very didactic. And they take you through some steps to really understand what racism is and what systemic racism is. How can you, as a white person in particular, understand systemic racism and choose to do something about it? And it's not that you come away from the workshop saying, oh gosh, I'm a racist, but you really come away with an appreciation of racism in this society and the persistence of white supremacy. Now, we've trained in Kent County probably 150, 200 people. That's a lot of folks, especially concerned folks that want to do good, etc. And now as we're moving through it, we're seeing this really have an impact on our educational system, our criminal justice system, our political system. We held folks accountable in local councilmen in office. Would they attend a training? We've put, when Washington College had difficulties this last semester, they put out the student union, Black Student Union put out a call, and we put 200 people, at the college in an afternoon. The last town council meeting in early March, where that was discussed, there was again 100 people in that room, and when they asked who here is part of the Social Action Committee for Racial Justice, 40 people raised their hand. And one of the things that happened here is that the group moved right away to wanting to take action. Committees were formed, people went out into the community to address systemic and structural racism in the community. A lot of times what happens is white people come out, their awareness is raised, but then we want to sit around and kind of talk about it, and are we racist? And gee, I feel a little guilty. This group, not so much. They really moved quickly to wanting to take action and to make real systemic change. So we've been at it for a while now, and I really want viewers to appreciate that momentum and the size of this, and that this doesn't happen overnight, that it's taken it's taken us 4 years, lots and lots of meetings and plannings and strategizing, but real impact is being made. In some ways we're working primarily from anti-racist principles, anti-racist organizing principles. So Undoing Racism really teaches you that if you're not organizing, you're not doing the work. So how do we stay accountable to communities of color, for example, is a principle. How do we understand and analyze power in our communities? A lot of times, myself being in behavioral health and social work, we'll come into a community and we'll do a needs assessment. Oh, what does that poor community of color need? Let's build a playground or what have you. All good works and important works, but it never analyzed how does power and how do aspects of power impact that community? And how can we look at those aspects and really help and organize for them to become less racist? So this group has formed into a number of different committees, the one looking at the Board of Education, looking at the political committee, criminal justice, and others, et cetera. And so the strategies are evolving organically as they move out into the communities and try to analyze the power aspects of it in racism, and then each come up with strategies about how to do something. So what's happened here in Kent County is people moved almost immediately to action. The Undoing Racism trainings, we've had 10 of them, as I've mentioned, gave us a common language to talk about this and to continue to hold each other accountable. And I have found that white guilt in particular is a place where white people can go and just sort of be frozen and not do anything about it. And so it's not really helpful. It may be a necessary stage for many of us, but it's a stage that has to be worked through. So I think, we are doing something now because we're moving forward and we're being accountable to communities of color. And that's really the blessing of the work that we're doing now. That enough trust has happened that I think we have folks of color in our communities to say, you know what, this feels more honest, this feels right, and I want to get involved and I want to participate. But I think if we broaden the lens and take a deep breath, we'll see that white privilege really is everywhere. And that as a white person, you can't avoid benefiting from it in a way that's unearned. So that's we have the notion of implicit bias. Harvard does a Google up Harvard study in implicit bias, and you can take the test and sort of see where you are in terms of deep unconsciously seated beliefs that because we're living in the United States and because of the legacy of slavery, it's in the air we breathe. And